If they persisted in their confessions, I executed them. Some at first admitted that they had once been Christians, but had renounced it. That's one of the situations that occurred for those folks who first lived in the city of Ephesus. Well, that ends our walking tour for the moment. We're going to go on walking tours for the next 4 weeks in September of the different 7 places in the 7 churches mentioned in Revelation. We're going to do 4 of them in September, and then we're going to have our capital campaign in October, so we'll take a break from the walking tours, and then in November we'll come back to them. Why are we doing this? Why are we taking these walking tours of these places in Asia Minor, these first century churches? Well, we're doing it because I believe there's a great deal to be learned about these churches that can help us, that can encourage us, that can teach us. I believe that some of the situations and some of the things that they were told were things that we can learn from. I believe that those words to them that said, I applaud you because of your work and your toil, are words that could be said to us, we Christians today. I believe the words that they heard that said, you've not suffered evildoers, you've been tested, but you have claimed the faith, are words that can apply to us. I believe the words that say, you're holding up well, you have been faithful, you have seen those who have claimed the faith, but who have not lived the faith, is a word that can apply for us. But just as any place is not perfect, and for those who think that Register Chapel is perfect, I applaud you on your imagination. You have a wonderful imagination. I think what also applies to us is this warning. And you know how prophecies were given? They were given to the church in Ephesus, a place that was a city and a great place, lots of cultural diversity, lots of kinds of different challenges and temptations. Well, I think that same thing exists for us today. Lots of temptations for the average Christian today. A lot of distractions, a lot of temptations, a lot of things that would cause us to fall away from the faith. Now, so this warning is a warning I think that sometimes can apply as well. It says, repent. Repent. This word that was given to them, repent because you have not all been able to stay faithful because of the conditions of lack of faith, or as we would say in modern day, because of folks who have done some backsliding. Folks who have walked away from the faith or moved away from the faith, moved away from God, who never moved away from us. And so this warning is one that says, most of all, those who have claimed discipleship but fallen away from their first love. Now that's what makes it interesting. Because when we read those words, first love, we know that this word isn't talking about when you first had your first crush, or when you had your first kind of first love romantic relationship. But when he writes this, you have fallen away from your first love. He's talking to the church and saying the church has walked away from its first love, which is Jesus Christ. Repent when the church walks away from its first priority, its first responsibility, its thing that should be held above all other. We remember those words. It's not just in Revelation and not just given here. These same words that came from the Old Testament, thou shalt have no other God before, no other God before me. And so the repent and the warning is, you have fallen away from your first love. And the second part of that is, you no longer do what you used to do in caring for and supporting and nurturing one another. Now, this is a word that's written while it's specific to the church in Ephesus and to that small house grouping church. The actual words and the warnings to the 7 churches are really for all of them. And that's another reason why we want to look at all of them. Because every word didn't apply to every church, but there are many words that apply to many churches. And so we're going to take these walking tours, and we're going to use these reminders, especially for Register Chapel, especially in this time of understanding and looking at the challenges before us, the trials and the tribulations. looking at the cultural differences, looking at the same situation we have as what that church and those churches in Ephesus had, a city where anything goes, where you can find whatever you want at a given notice. Anything you want, you can find it because of the vast size. Well, we kind of live in that kind of day and age too. We also live in a day and age where sometimes we fall away from the main thing, from the priority, and that is Jesus Christ. And when we fall away from Christ, this word of repent and mourning is, when you do that, then you become disconnected from one another. That's when you find people who end up at a place of loss and loneliness and lack of support and a lack of bonded closeness with brothers and sisters in a way that makes a difference through the most challenging of times. And that's why we're looking at this. Because once we've done a really close and good study of this and connected with it, once we figured out what we can learn from it, then we're going to move to the next step. What do we do about it? And a part of that's our revival. And that's also why our revival is a revival on the Christian home and Christian family. Because we think it's important to offer that support. So that's the word of the Lord for today. And the offerings of the Lord that continue.